I've never done this before. I don't know what normal is.
This is normal.
Okay.
What we're doing right now is normal.
All right, good.
Yeah. So we're just having a little conversation, Jeremy.
Yep,
You know,
perfect.
We're going to talk about all kinds of good stuff. Welcome to TMI with Mark and Troy. Today we have Jeremy Nichols. He is president of Cyclone Contracting out of Ames, Iowa. They're serving both Ames and Ankeny, and I'm sure surrounding area as well.
Correct.
You can check them out at cyclonecontracting.com. I was on there a little while ago. You got a really cool looking team on there. Looks like they're having a fun time, making people's dreams come to become a reality. Some of the portfolio on there is some really exquisite kitchen and bathroom remodels, finished basements, projects, adding some square footage to your home, which is, existing homes, which is great. Some cool things you guys are doing, home gyms, home movie theaters, basement bars, adding a guest bedroom. So all kinds of cool stuff. Thanks for joining us today, coming in to tell us a little bit about what Cyclone Contracting does. We met a while ago. Chris Nichols introduced us. We had lunch at I think it was Market Grill or something in Ankeny.
It was years ago. Chris introduced us, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear a little bit more about how did you get started in this particular industry?
Yeah, so it wasn't a straight line construction path. So I was in sales, and I actually called on Larry, the founder of Cyclone, as a heating and cooling rep. So that was a new gig to me. I was working with a large heating and cooling manufacturer. And so Cyclone was in the heating and cooling space at that time as well. And so I went up and basically said, hey, I'm your new sales rep. I know nothing about heating and cooling, but I know some general business stuff, and I know some stuff about sales. And he said, well, that's great, because I don't need heating and cooling knowledge. I need sales knowledge. We got to sell more. And I'm like, great. So we had a new training program. So I'm like, I'm going to roll this training program out with you, and I'll come up every Monday morning and meet with you. And it was a gentleman by the name of Brent that worked for us at the time, or for Larry at the time. And so every Monday morning we sat down, we watched a series of videos and live stuff that this trainer was putting on. And then the relationship just kind of developed. I left that after about a year, and Larry called me up and said, why don't you come run the business? And I'm like, no thanks. A couple months later, I called Larry and said, hey, how about I come up and run the business? And boy, I'll tell you, the adventure from there was, it's pretty fun to look back on, because it'll be 13 years next week, February 4th. Nice. And it took about 5 or 6 years to figure out that I didn't know how to run the business. But I was willing to work at it. And Larry had started the business. We're a 30-year-old company this year. January 1, we turned 30 years old. Huge milestone. And, Larry loved to work in the business, wanted someone to work on it. And just over the last 13 years, we've just kind of slowly figured it out. So maybe a long story there, but it was not a straight line. I have no construction background. I'm not a remodeler. They have pictures of me pushing a wheelbarrow with some concrete in it for a deck, but that's about all you'll find me doing on a job site is being grunt labor, but that's pretty seldom.
That's what I found most fascinating about your story, is that if you put a hammer in your hand, you're probably pretty dangerous.
Yeah, not in a good way.
But here you're leading this organization successfully into its next era, whatever that looks like. But I mean, you guys have added some really cool services since I've known you. Moving beyond construction, you guys bought a window treatment company and integrated that into Cyclone. So doing window treatments and things like that, which is really, really neat. Just really cool how your business acumen has really helped propel Cyclone Contracting.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky with Larry that he just kind of gave me the keys, which is awesome. At times frustrating, like, hey, you own the business, and then I bought in and we became partners. And then at the end of 24, I purchased the business from Larry. So he actually is retiring on Friday. This is like perfect timing.
Hey,
so his
happy retirement, Larry.
Congratulations. His last day is Friday, and I know he'll still be around a little bit, but him and his wife Deb are going to travel, and we're excited for them to do that.
Goodness.
Yeah, and but yeah, I mean we've gone from being kind of thinking everything had to be under one roof, doing heating and cooling, plumbing. We did radon, got us into that.
You came to my house
Yeah,
and did radon inspection.
radon mitigation and measurement. And then with COVID, like back in 2020, everything kind of shifted for us, and just where people really started to focus on their homes and wanting to get more into remodel. We had hired a new designer at the time. She came in, and right before COVID, it was February of 2020, she started with us. And it just kind of, the remodel was where we wanted to be, and we were a little dependent on the revenues of the other arms. We got out of that. We were like, okay, now we can focus to where we want to be, which is the remodel space. It's where we felt we were best and could grow the most. So we did that. And then the window treatments, brackets just kind of came out of nowhere. That was trying to hire another designer, and then she worked for a company, and that company didn't have an exit strategy for their sole owner. So one thing led to another, and now I'm in the window treatment business. It's a good business. I mean, there's a lot yet for me to learn, but I have a team of people that have been in it for 20 plus years. I think the collective experience on that side of the world from Michelle and Barb is like 50 plus years of window treatment experience. So yeah, I lean into those people. And I think the funnest part for me is that while it's scary as a business owner to be dependent on people that work for and with you, it's also like the most fun part. Like you have to build a trust, and it hurts when somebody leaves, things like that. And you try not to take it personal, and eventually you don't, but maybe at first you do. But like, I'm dependent on good people for my business to be good. And one of the areas I'm trying to grow in as a leader is, from a visionary standpoint, is understanding that I love my customers. I have to. I want to.
Yep.
But my number one customer is my people. And like, if I just focus on them, so hopefully, I'll continue to grow in that area. But I have a wonderful team that I lean on for the construction experience and knowledge. And obviously I'm involved in high-level decisions and all of that and customer interactions. But from a construction knowledge standpoint, I just go out and hire the smartest people I can find and lean on them.
That's what makes you successful. Surrounding yourself with people who are really, really great at what they do, much better than you would be, and bringing them all together and getting them pointed in the right direction to ultimately serve those customers that Cyclone serves. But I think your head's in the right place. You take care of your people first. You love on them, and they'll in turn love on the customers. And that's what drives the business forward. Right.
And Larry and Deb were so good at that. I mean, at times it was almost holding us back. We were so team member friendly. And so that's a struggle at times, to put those guardrails in place that you have to as you grow from a business of 10 employees to 19. I mean, there's different things you have to do, and there's guardrails you have to put in place. And that can be a challenge, but one of our core values is transparency, and I put that in selfishly, and I've told our whole team that. We just went through a rewrite of the core values, make sure they were on par and hitting where we wanted them to hit. And I put transparency in selfishly because I'm like, I have to be able to be transparent and have hard conversations. And I'm a people person. I'm a high I on the disc profile. So like, all I care about is that you guys like me. If you guys like me, I'm like happy, right? Yep. And as a business owner and leader, that's not always the best seat to be in. So that transparency as a core value was like selfish. And I, like I said, I've told the team that we all need to communicate that way, but I need to know that I have the right and that I have to do that to live up to our core values. And so I'm learning.
Yep.
I'm glad you said that. One of the first things that I'll do in a discovery visit or an analysis visit with a new prospective client is ask for their permission to tell them what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. Because I'm so much like you. I want to be liked. I'm a people pleaser, but I have to have that blanket. Yeah, that's what we want. So I can take the gloves off and really, get down into be serious conversations with folks, because otherwise you almost feel like you're holding back because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And sometimes you got to have tough conversations, So I'm glad you said that. So heating and cooling, I didn't even know that about Cyclone. At one time you were in the heating and cooling. You're not doing that anymore, right?
Nope.
That's one of those things that has kind of been shed as you focus on remodeling. Is there anything else that has been shed along the way?
Yeah. So in 22, so as I said, COVID kind of really shifted our business as it did for a lot of people. And we saw a lot of growth in the remodel space and opportunities in other spaces as well. But it gave us the ability to focus where we wanted to focus. So in 22, we had an opportunity to just carve off the heating and cooling and plumbing piece and step away from that. We're still in the process of trying to process orient our business. How many times can I say process? But we're trying to get into that orientation and have everything process driven. And when we were doing heating and cooling, plumbing, radon, remodeling, not only are you got a handful of guys working 24/7 service calls, a handful of guys not, and you're managing that. And then there's just, the amount of systems, and we just weren't keeping up. We weren't able to get any traction. So we were able to parcel that business off in mid-22. We were still doing radon measurement and mitigation at that time, but that's where I was the salesperson for the measurement, or for the radon. I was the measurer. I was the license. And eventually it was just, by the end of 22, we made the decision, like, we're just going to walk away from that. There was really no opportunity to sell it. So it was just, we were going to walk away from radon. And so we communicated with the clients, let them know. I was just at a basketball game for my 9th grader, and a guy comes up to me, and I'm like, he looks familiar. He walks right by me, and I'm like, oh, I guess he looked familiar to me. I didn't look familiar to him. And then all of a sudden, I get a tap on the shoulder about 5 minutes later, and he introduces himself, and I go, I remember you. He goes, I think I was your last radon customer. And I'm like, I think you were. Because we were, very, again, transparent with the client, like, hey, we're getting out of this space. Yeah. We'll still do it. We know how to do it. But so we strictly focus now on residential remodeling, kitchens, baths, basements, decks. We do windows. We don't do a lot of whole home windows at this point in time. But we do a lot of, you want to replace your front windows or your entry door. We do a lot of entry doors and sliding doors, basements, and then the window treatment side. That's our focus.
Excellent. Are there any trends going on in the remodeling space right now that you're loving?
So good thing we did the bio, right? Because I'm like, why is he asking me about trends? I'm not the trends guy, but I did ask my team a little bit. And a couple of my favorites, I really like the way we're introducing color. Like, we had the opportunity to open a showroom this past year, and that's been really exciting. But like, introducing maybe, white cabinets have been the most popular cabinet color for like ever. And there's 100 different shades of white, but that's just what it is. It's white cabinets. But now you're starting to see some color pops. Like, maybe you go with a white oak cabinet, so a natural look in your cabinet, your base cabinets, and then the island, you put a pop of maybe a green or something like that. Or, so you're seeing some two-tone looks. I wouldn't say that's new, but I like it personally. And I think it just kind of differentiates a little bit. My window treatment gals just told me that interior windows are coming back, or like kind of a new thing. So with open concepts, people love the open concept feel, but they don't like the lack of privacy or lack of division, I guess, where you can close off a room. So people going to, maybe on an office doing a interior windowed wall.
Interesting.
And a door, maybe just both doors have windows, and they do double doors or something like that. So you're seeing some things like that. But it's crazy in our space. There's little things that pop. Everything seems to come back around. Scary enough. Yeah. I've heard rumors that honey oak is coming back. So if you got it, hang on to it. It might be cool again. But like wallpaper, wall covering, that's coming back.
I did notice that coming back, wallpaper, yeah.
Yep. So.
I used to peel that off the walls when I'd get in trouble. And they'd stick me in the corner. So So my mom would always have me in the kitchen with her.
Flaring right there, you have to pull it.
She'd always have me in the kitchen with her, so she'd keep an eye on me. And my dad came in one time. He's like, he likes being in here with you. So he put me in the other room. She's like, I wouldn't do that. And I had most of the wallpaper in the corner ripped off by that time.
Maybe you're just on trend.
I guess.
Maybe
It's just remodeling.
Yeah. Maybe the wallpaper was out.
Oh my god.
Are you seeing any mistakes that homeowners make, like when they plan a remodel?
I mean, I guess there's some that we feel like they make. Oftentimes when you get into remodeling, there's a sense of urgency because they've been thinking about it for 10 years and finally, like financially or something has happened that like we can do this. And so one of the big things we try to stress, and we build in with our process is the time to make your decisions up front. Like if you want to control the remodel schedule, the best way to do it is to have all the decisions made.
Right.
So we have a process. It's called a firewall process internally. But like if somebody doesn't have a paint color selected, that goes on the firewall as something that has to be decided. Because if we have a client, some of our clients will say, I'll save a little bit of money. I'll do the painting myself. Great. Like we can work around that. We need to schedule for it because there's other things dependent on it. That can cause a little bit of a hiccup. But like if they don't have the color picked beforehand, that 1 week lag becomes 3 weeks because all of a sudden we can't get a color selected, things like that. That's a minor one. But I think taking the time up front to really slow down and make all your selections, and it's part of what we do. So these are selfish requests, I guess. But like fixed cost budget versus allowances. In our world, a lot of people, price is a big deal. You're spending, mid 5 figures up into the 6 figures for these remodels. And, sometimes price is a big driver.
Yep.
And I understand that completely. But understanding what you're getting for that price is vitally important. And the way we go to market is with a fixed cost budget. So if Troy, you came to me for a remodel, we would sit down. You'd sit down with one of my designers. We wouldn't sit down. I would lead you down a bad path. But you would sit down with one of my team members. They're going to go through everything. We're going to give you a scope of work. Are we on the same page? Yes, we're on the same page. Okay, great. Now we'll go into a selections process. We'll get all that. We'll price all that.
Okay.
And then at the end, we're going to come to you and say, here's your price. Okay. And then, yes, there's change orders every time we get into it. We look at change orders 2 ways. You have customer driven change orders. And that is, I said I wanted a fireplace. I said I didn't want to pay for it. Now I want the fireplace again. Okay. So we have to do a change order. Or there's ones that, there are mistake change orders. We make mistakes and we eat those. But then there's also unseen, like subflooring.
Yep.
You're ripping up floor and it's soft. You find some bad spots. We don't want to just cover that up.
Right.
So, so the fixed cost budget allows you to go in knowing what you're supposed to spend and what you've agreed to spend, and then controlling the rest. Allowances for people, if you're not very well aware of the allowances, it's easy to go over those. So if you've got $4 tile for your tile shower and all of a sudden you buy $8 tile, that goes really quick. So the fixed cost budget is new to some people, but in our world anyway, but it's just a simpler way. We know what we have to deliver that job for. We know what we've committed to, what you've committed to. And our change order rate in 23 and 24 was less than 3%.
Oh, wow.
So if I told you, and that was over everything, that was customer driven, that was subfloor or like necessitated change orders. Sure. So at 3%, if you had $100,000 deal with us, you might spend 103.
That's a pretty good deal.
And most people figure, I know it's cost plus 10, and we don't do that. Nice. We want to give you a price up front. You know what your investment is, and that helps you control it.
Like the fact that you guys spend so much time on making sure that all the details are documented up front so that there are fewer surprises. You can't ever say there's not going to be a surprise or there's not going to be.
I haven't had one with that one yet, but yes, we try.
Yeah. Which is well, in our practice, we make everybody do a spending plan, and I think that's a big shocker for a lot of folks when they come in. They want to work with a financial planner. They want to work with the investment folks and help my money make money. And the first thing we're like, well, let's slow down. Let's figure out, where are you today? Where do you want to be in the future? What does that look like? Because your vision of the future looks different than somebody else who walks in behind you. Your lifestyle is different than somebody else that walks in behind you. Used to drive me nuts. Some of these financial institutions that have these commercials, what's your number? And they put in people's heads, I have to have this certain number in order to retire. We've got clients that their lifestyle is extremely manageable. With the cash flow they have coming in from income sources like pension or Social Security, and they don't need this huge pile of resources, big 401ks to be able to maintain their lifestyle. We have other folks that come in and don't have those income sources, and their lifestyle is maybe significantly more than somebody else's, and it's a very different outcome. So if you don't take the time up front to lay all these details out and model it, it's very difficult, I think, to really then know what even tools to grab for, what materials in your business, what materials are you going to use in that remodel or building out the basement, and what's realistically going to cost, and where can you make reductions so that you can maybe splurge in other areas that are more important to you, et cetera. It's that seems like quite the task to juggle too when you're doing a construction project.
Yeah, it's a big difference between like window treatments and remodel. Like the timelines. There's a lot of decisions to be made in a custom window treatment. You're getting shades, powered, not powered, styles, all these things, fabrics, but it's still like one decision. It's one set of decisions. And in remodeling, you have the vanity decisions, the shower decisions, the toilet decisions. You get into a bathroom. There's a lot of decisions. That's where the showroom, or my goal with the showroom was, I'll say one-stop shopping. Don't hold me to it, but was to get people in and be able to touch and feel things and make decisions. This decision fatigue in remodeling is real, and our old model, and still at times we do it depending on the customer, was, all right, we're going to go to this plumbing wholesale house, and all of a sudden they walk in and they see 500 faucets. Good luck making a pick. It's going to take you a while, right? Because there's a lot of cool ones, a lot of ones that I want.
Right.
Bring them in and say, like, okay, let's narrow down to a style of faucet, and then if there's a color or a slight tweak or something, we can figure that out for you. But pick from these 4, right? And we have some customers that love that. We have some customers that want more, and we can always give them more. But narrowing that down and trying to get the decision fatigue as low as possible, because it's a real thing.
Well, and this is where the allowances come in too, because the price from one faucet to another that looks very similar can be significant, 50%, 100% more, and those can add up quickly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like I said, the tile thing. There's a story that Larry had years ago, and hopefully the client's listening. No, I'm kidding. But he had given the guy like a $1,500 allowance and for tile, and it was a smaller job. And we got done, and he had spent like $4,200 on tile.
Oh my!
And Larry called him and gave him the change order, and the guy's like, "Not my problem." And it was like, well, no, actually, said on there and we ended up, we ate it. At the end of the day, I think we it wasn't worth going through the rigmarole of small claims and all of that. But like that's an extreme example. We don't deal with hardly any clients like that. But that one example is just, I don't think the guy understood the allowances. I don't think we explained it probably properly. And at the end, he's like, well, that's not what I agreed to. Might have been what was written down, but so ever since then we've viewed allowances a little bit differently. But I think it's so important. We've run into deals. We had $1 million deal that we walked away from just because we weren't able to facilitate the deal. We would have had to shut down serving all of our other customers and try and go after this one deal. And it was exciting and it was hard to say no to. But then they had made a decision. After we had that conversation, they had picked somebody else. And then like 8 months later, they called us back and said, hey, can we revisit this? Right. And a lot of it came down to, it looked like it was apples to apples at the beginning. And then once they got into it, it wasn't. it was like, well, wait a minute, this is getting really, really expensive. I keep hitting the table. Sorry, Hannah, if I'm messing you up. Trying to at least keep my ring off it. So I make it sound like there's a lot of bad stories. We have such great customers, it comes down to communication.
Yeah.
And so when we explain the process up front about this is how we're going to price things, and here's your payment plan, and here's how we're going to do it, it really does keep the friction to a minimum. Remodeling there's a messy middle to it. It takes a long time. One of the best things I did since being with the company was in 22. Well, we ordered our cabinets for our house in April of 20, peak of COVID, like right when it hit. We installed those cabinets and finished my personal remodel in November of 22. The tile guys were finishing the backsplash the day before Thanksgiving as my mother-in-law watched them. So, like, we were just busy. Couldn't get to it. That was great. But Sarah and I going through that process at home was, like, stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to go through it from a standpoint of, I got a pretty good deal on it, right, as an owner. But the key was I still had anxiety about decisions that were being made. I had anxiety about where something was left at the end of the day. Being able to go to my team and say, guys, this is real. Like, this is how the customer's feeling. And they're the ones writing 5-figure checks to make this happen. And we have to be aware of that. And our team does a phenomenal job. If you look at our Google reviews, encourage everybody to do that.
Already did.
All right, perfect.
Yep.
You'll see our guys named over and over and over. My project manager, Nathan, was just at a customer's house, and he's like, oh, my gosh, she named every dude like multiple times, including our subs. She loves them all. I'm like, that's
great.
That's music to your ears.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
That's awesome.
But I don't remember the question, but here we are.
Well, but I love the fact you brought this up, that you had your own experience and putting yourself in the shoes of your ultimate customer there, who is having this experience, and at times it can feel kind of like, where is everybody? You know, I thought this was going to happen, but then that happened, and that's why it's so important. I believe, I've been coaching financial advisors for years, that you are very detailed in communicating how things are going to play out, what are the steps of the process, what to expect, even the things that we take for granted. There are things that happen in our business constantly, and we're like, we just know it's going to happen, but and it's kind of a no-brainer. And this, particularly when I'm coaching other financial advisors, because they have that same experience. But I'm like, the customer doesn't have that. They don't know when you call to do a 401k rollover that the financial institution representative is going to ask, have you received the IRS special tax notice in the last 180 days? And why that is important to let them know this is going to happen. And things don't always go according to plan, but you do your best to say, this is how it should play out. Yeah. If something comes up that's a little bit different, this is how we'll handle it. But putting their mind at ease, this is how things are going to go. And when that happens, then and things play out, that builds trust. If something does change along the way, but you've been upfront and communicated that effectively, it's not a big deal. It becomes a big deal when they don't know what that next step is. They don't know what to expect. Their mind, they start creating their own expectations that are wildly different than what is actually going to happen. And that's where you run into trouble. And I love the fact that you went through that. You were able to visualize that and then communicate it to your team to say, this is really important.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's something I wish I would have done years ago. And I guess I did it on the heating and cooling side. We had a new system put in shortly after I started, but that didn't go so well with the installers. But we made some course corrections. But yeah, I mean, I think clients, like, we're very blessed. The way we communicate with our clients and everything is, I was just having this conversation yesterday, well, we already told them. We told them what to expect. We showed them what to expect, and they're still calling me. And it's like, yeah, they're calling because there's a relationship. And they feel comfortable picking up the phone and saying, hey, Nathan, where the heck are you guys at?
Yep.
Nathan's my project manager. He's a stud. But, I mean, we need to embrace that. Yeah. We need to realize that that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Our industry, I'm sure you guys have industry faux pas or things that you battle as a financial planner. In construction, we have a pretty low bar. Like,
Yes.
I mean, so I guess where I've come from, not being a construction guy, was first and foremost, let's answer the phone.
Yeah.
Let's always answer the phone. Let's pick up the phone and let's deal by phone. That's in this world, that's different. And sometimes we're good at it. Sometimes we're not as good as I'd like us to be, but like, pick up the phone. Don't deal with it via text. Because you're not supposed to read tone and text, but we all do it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so like, just that low bar is something that we talk about. Like, we want to raise that bar as an industry, because the story, you don't hear about all the great jobs that we complete or that most of our competition competes. There's a lot of good people in our space. You hear about the deposit check for 50% that was handed off at the front step, and then the guy never came back.
Yeah.
That's what you hear about.
That happened to my brother out in Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
It's very seldom, but that's what gets reported on, right? And the people that happens to, my heart goes out to them, right? I mean, it's terrible.
May I throw on top of that, though? Not always the case, but often the case when that happens, they're the low ballers. They're not the established company. They're like, I can do it for less. And somebody's like, oh, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
Stroke the check.
Same
and
thing.
then,
Thank you for saying that.
yeah.
Not making me say it. So one of the things, like, we track set behavior. So if you call in for a remodel, I need to know, or want to know as a business owner, like, how long does it take for us to get out and see you? Go run that consultation, that first step appointment. At times we've been as far as 35 days, and that's a challenge. That's too far. You're excited. You've been thinking about this kitchen for 10 years, and now I'm going to be like, awesome, think about it for 10 years and one more, 35 more days. So we have to be aware of that. But typically we see it as a benefit when somebody calls in when we're running about 2 weeks, because then we can say, because one of the biggest things we hear is, well, you're the third company I called. You're the only one that showed up. Or you're the third one that showed up, but the other two showed up the day I called them, right? And they said, yeah, I can make some tea. Are you around this afternoon? And then I haven't heard back from them. So it's like simple steps, right? Like, just do what we say we're going to do. When we set an appointment, fulfill the appointment. I mean, it's unfortunately and fortunately, it's a low bar, and we just try to block and tackle, I guess, at the end of the day.
I think that's a lot of business in general.
Yep.
A lot of different industries, the bar is pretty low. But those that are in high demand, for sure. We hear this a lot with accountants, because there are so few accountants. It's such a high demand. And I'm not talking about your tax preparer who is doing your taxes, or you don't want to do TurboTax, so you go to H&R Block or something. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about real accountants dealing with business owners and whatnot.
Yep.
And they don't always get the greatest service, but a lot of that is because they're so overwhelmed. They have so much demand that, and I'm not excusing it. It doesn't make it right, but they have so much demand that they can get away with a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm grateful for my CPA. I do not want his hours this time of year. That's for sure.
No. I do have a question about, generally speaking, a lot of our clients that we serve are making that transition into retirement. We often meet them somewhere between 5 to 1 year, 12 months prior to them making that transition. And so they're looking at navigating their senior years. They kind of break into 3 phases. You probably heard this before. We've said it before. But you've got your go-go years. They just transition to retirement. They've got lots of energy. They've got their resources. They're still physically capable to go do the things they want to do. And so they're out being active. And then they maybe start to slow down a little bit. We call those slow-go years, and then eventually the no-go years. Are there things that folks can think about for preparing to stay in their home to and through retirement, through those different phases, that maybe they could think about during their go-go years to help them prepare for their no-go years, modifications?
Yeah, I mean, we do this type of stuff, but there's, you've got your stand-up tubs or stand-up showers, tub showers, they're not the best things to look at, but they're functional. But the basics the basics of what we see for aging in place is going to be, when we do even a standard remodel, we want to put in backing for grab bars so that eventually you don't have to maybe tear up the wall. Right. The grab bar backing is already there. So grab bars, comfort height toilets, which is like, I think a comfort height compared to a standard height's like an inch different, 1.5 inches. It's not very much. Feels big when you go to sit down on the stool, but so comfort height toilets, grab bars, tub shower conversions. So getting the tub out and getting a low threshold showers. Those are your most basic, like cost-effective things that can still be very visually appealing, still give you an updated modern look, right? But you can incorporate your grab bars and all of that either now or in the future. So like if somebody's in their go-go years, maybe they say, hey, I want to redo this bathroom and I don't want to look at grab bars yet, but can we put some backers in place? Yeah. So that when I need them, or God forbid something happen and we need them quicker than we anticipate, we don't have to do more work. Things like that. Outside of that, I mean, there's obviously a lot of things you can do from a threshold perspective, but some of it can be pretty cost prohibitive if you're trying to do zero entry showers and stuff like that in a home that wasn't designed for it.
That's so we actually have a couple of folks in Colorado who I reference a lot, and I can't name names. We got privacy that we got to protect. But that was one of my homework items. Then this is several years ago. One of my homework items to them was, you're not going to spend all of this. Your kids are gonna enjoy a pretty nice inheritance because their lifestyle was extremely manageable with the resources they had, and they're growing well. So I put a challenge to them to decide what they want to do. Like, what's your wish list item? And I gave them a week's time to come back with that wish list item. And it was a tub shower. It's like, great. I don't do construction, but find a few contractors. Let's get some good bids. And then I think it was within a couple of months they had it in and paid for. And then next year the homework item was something else. But that's one of the things we try to challenge our clients to do, particularly those that have resources that they're clearly not going to spend to maintain their current standard of living, and find ways to do that. But those are good tips. The tub shower, the grab bar. I would have never thought about putting backer in for that. That's really, really smart. My uncle passed away a few years ago, but he kind of started to go downhill and Parkinson's, and they had to actually lived over in your neighborhood, and they ended up having to put ramps in and things eventually, stuff like that, so they could get him up and down and in and out of the vehicle and things like that. But those are the real, those are the no-go years for sure, modifications. But it's nice to think about some of that stuff up front to help that transition make it a little bit easier, especially if you do plan on aging in place. Yeah,
most of what we do, like I said, is in the bathroom space. I mean, a lot of it's based on the construction of the home. I mean, like you can't modify how the home was designed if there's steps up to the front door and things like that. But we've built some ramps and things like that. You asked trends earlier. Like one of the trends we're seeing that we're pretty excited about is a PVC decking. So you've heard of composite decking.
Yes.
But the PVC decking is extremely durable. It's a little easier to work with for our crew, a little lighter. But the wood look of it is really starting to improve. So originally composite decking was made to look like wood, but it was like, I can kind of tell it's not wood. The PVC stuff is really getting a really cool look.
Is the price comparable to the composite?
It's going to be a more expensive composite option, but it's hard to quantify that on decking, Troy. It's a question we get a lot, but the ideal customer for us is the guy that actually treats his wood deck. Yeah. Because he understands how much time, effort, and energy and money goes into doing that every year or two, power washing it and treating it and doing all that. But the composite decks are the look of them has really improved over the years, in my opinion, and the PVC's even going a step higher.
Nice. Fantastic. Troy, do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I love the processes. I mean, I could go over that all day. I like
know.
hearing the processes and that there's a process for each thing, and that's why things go so much smoother than someone that's going in and trying to attack this on their own, or maybe, hey, I can do this. I'll call an electrician, I'll call a plumber, and I'll call a drywall, and I'll try to coordinate this myself. It just doesn't.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck.
And then good luck getting them to show up. You know,
That's the other thing, yeah.
Cyclone Contracting is going to have a little bit more pull with subcontractors because they're keeping them busy than you trying to do it on your own. It's not to say you can't do it, but it's be much more challenging. I did want to point out, and you brought it up a couple of times. I was going to bring it up if you didn't, but the new showroom. Go check it out. Where's that located at?
We're at 215 Alexander Avenue in Ames. And yeah, I mean, we've got 4 bath vignettes, 2 kitchen vignettes. One's fully functioning, so we can throw you a frozen pizza in or something if you want it. And then we've got all new Hunter Douglas displays for the window treatments and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty exciting times.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you very much. We're very excited. We've just started to scratch the surface. Our client feedback has been awesome. And
you've served some of our, I can't name names again, but you've served some of our clients and did some
thank you for that.
Yeah, pretty like remarkable remodels. Like one of them was like, I think pretty much the whole house.
Yeah, we get, that's a difficult thing because with open concept, it's like, oh, you want to do your kitchen? Well, we're touching 3 other rooms while we do that.
Right, yeah.
And so maybe that's where we need to go to more interior windows that I mentioned earlier. We can cut that space off. It still has openness, but yeah, we're extremely grateful for referrals from you guys and everybody. We're so blessed to have a referral based business.
Yes.
And sometimes it's hard to track the exact number of that, but when we merged and brought brackets on, that's the window treatment side. We knew there was a very good congruence between the 2 companies, but like we had no idea. And the amount of times it was, like one of my remodel consultants will go out and they'll do a little sales report just real quick. Like, hey, met with so-and-so, good conversation. Here's next steps. Barbara, Michelle on the bracket side is like, oh, I love those guys. They're the best. We've worked with them for years, and then it's just, it's so much fun to see that people have a trust for us. And then we can leverage that. If they have a trust in the window treatment side, now they have more trust for us immediately because they know people associated. So it's been a really cool thing.
Fantastic, man. Well, congratulations. And thanks for coming in and spending some time with us today. We appreciate it. This has been TMI with Mark and Troy, and our guest today, Jeremy Nichols. Check him out at Cyclone Contracting.